Hello again, everybody. It's been a long time since we've done this, which means it's been a long time since there's been any significant snow in the forecast. Today's February the 9th, and our buddy Tom Novak seems like there's something on the horizon that may not be big, but it's worth talking about. Is that right, Tom?
Right. So far this season, Bill, at MSP International, the largest one-day snow total has been 3.4 inches of snow. That just tells you how ridiculously quiet our winter has been so far.
Yeah.
We have an opportunity, the way it appears tomorrow, to at least threaten that mark. Do I think we're going to reach 3.5 inches? Probably not. But it's nice to know that we could threaten it, and if everything comes together perfectly tomorrow morning and we get enough forcing in the atmosphere, we could maybe eclipse that 3.4 mark. So I'm kind of excited about that. There's one thing seems for sure, Bill, by the way. For those of you that are commuting tomorrow, late tomorrow afternoon, commuting home from work, it looks like it's going to be a nightmare, so keep that in mind.
Okay. Will do.
And by the way, we were just talking about what was going on in the Northeast in Boston with all the snow. It is, by the way, it's remarkable. But that also kind of factors into what's going on here because we've been stuck in a weather pattern here in Minnesota and Wisconsin where it's a quick northwesterly flow, typical of El Nino, actually, Bill. But also what's typical of El Nino is that big storms blow up on the East Coast, and that certainly has been happening over the last month. Out east, especially in the Northeast. And I think this pattern, by the way, is going to continue. We're going to get a quick moving storm that moves through tomorrow, and then, of course, we kind of settle into this El Nino pattern where we get a cold shot of air, doesn't last very long, and then we become mild again, and a clipper eventually gets thrown in there too. So if you like what you've seen over the last couple of months, Bill, I think you're going to like February.
Speaking of El Nino, Tom, I know people really don't care that much about what's going on out here in California, but it is kind of interesting to notice that there has not been a day yet in 2015 where it's been below normal. Every single day has been above normal. And
wow.
We're supposed to be in the mid-70s later this week, so it just keeps on keeping on out here, too. So,
right.
But back to Minnesota weather, because that's
and that is crazy, Bill. And, that just tells you that flow coming into the Pacific Northwest is driving warm air onto the coast. And it's actually that flow, Bill, that's going to bring our storm system to our area tomorrow, that fast-moving jet out of the Pacific Northwest. And right now what you're seeing is the NAM computer model, Bill. This is the jet stream at 25,000 feet above the surface of the Earth. That's where the jets like to get into their cruising altitudes. And you can see exactly where our winds are coming from this evening. They're coming from California and Oregon, and they're moving basically straight east into the Central Plains. And this is what we call a jet streak right here, Bill, in Utah, this red area.
Mm-hmm.
And we're keeping an eye on that jet streak because watch what happens to it as we head through the night. It expands east, which means there's energy that's going to be moving east into Iowa and Nebraska and, of course, the Dakotas and southern Minnesota. And usually on the northern, or at least the nose, the upper left quadrant of this jet stream, this jet streak, is where you usually get lift.
So Tom, just if I can interrupt, so the jet streak is where the air is moving the fastest in that red area? Is that's
correct. Those are strong winds aloft. So if you're taking a jet from San Francisco and you're flying to Minneapolis, you're probably going to make pretty darn good time overnight tonight if it's a red-eye flight. So
you're saying I could catch the flight, get there in time before the storm, and enjoy it.
Right, you'd probably get in a half hour earlier than what they normally expect you to because of the strong winds up above that are moving from west to east. And what's important about this, Bill, is that we're kind of sandwiched in between two jet streaks. Here's this strong one over the Central Plains. Then look up here north of Minnesota. This is a little weaker jet streak, but still it is a jet streak. And at the right rear quad of those strong winds is where you usually get a significant lift, and that's right over Minnesota too. So in other words, we've got what's called a coupled jet structure, and we're right in the middle here, and that's where some fairly serious lift is going to occur during the day tomorrow. So that's important. Another thing that's important, Bill, is our winds at the lower levels of the atmosphere, and I'm going to zoom in. This is at the 850 millibar level, Bill, and I'm going to zoom in, and what I want you to look is at these strong southerly winds that are going to be developing during the day tomorrow. This is tomorrow morning at about 10 a.m.
That's like Sears Tower height, right?
Yeah, a little bit above the Sears Tower, but yeah, we're talking probably about 10,000 feet above the atmosphere now. Okay. And look at where our winds are coming from. They're coming from Kansas and Iowa. This is a strong fetch of air coming up out of those areas, which means there's going to be some moisture involved with this storm. Plenty of moisture for the storm to work with tomorrow. And as those winds ride up into southern Minnesota, they're strong, and they're going to be riding up and over a cold dome of air that we have here at the surface. And the winds are very strong, again, at 850 millibars throughout much of the morning and afternoon over southern and eastern Minnesota, western Wisconsin. So that's why I'm pretty confident that we're going to get some snow. Now, this is hot off the press. This is the high-resolution HRR computer model. This is a very good model to look at if you're only going about 10 to 15 hours in advance. But watch what this is the future radar by the HRRR computer model. And look at what it's showing at about midnight tonight right here. You can see some showers. This looks like rain going over western North Dakota. And then watch what happens to this area of precipitation over the Dakotas. It expands, and then it starts to turn to snow as it moves into Minnesota. And I'm going to go to the last frame here, which is at about 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. And look at how this rain and snow is expanding over Minnesota. And this is very important, Bill. Look at what's happening here in southwest Minnesota. This looks to be some heavy sleet or freezing rain developing there. And if you just extrapolate into the future, into the late morning and afternoon hours, as that moves into eastern Minnesota, that'll likely turn to snow. And that's why we could get some fairly heavy snow for at least a few hours here in the Twin Cities.
How concerned are you that some of it will be rain and sleet?
I'm very concerned that we're going to get rain and sleet from about the southern Twin Cities metro on south to Rochester, and then out west to Redwood Falls. And in fact, this is the RAP computer model, Bill. This is also looking into the future. This is the radar. And here's the RAP at 10 a.m. showing about the exact same thing that the HRRR computer model showed. So there's a lot of consensus here that a fairly strong and about, I don't know, maybe about a 100-mile wide band of precipitation is going to move into southern Minnesota. Now, I think from, the downtowns on north, I think this is going to be mostly, if not all, snow in the Twin Cities, and of course central and northern Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. But yes, I am concerned that there's going to be a mix over about the southern 2 tiers, maybe 3 tiers of counties in Minnesota. So that's something we need to keep in mind. Another model I wanted to show you, Bill, and this is actually a pretty interesting model. This is called the SREF computer model. This basically combines all the short-range computer models as well as short-range ensemble forecast. I'm sorry, Bill?
That means short-range ensemble forecast, right?
Yep, that's exactly what it means. Short-range ensemble forecast. This combines a bunch of computer models together and gives basically an average of what they all think. And this is where greater than an inch of snow is expected when you combine all these models together. This is tomorrow morning, of course, no snow really yet in Minnesota, but watch what happens during the day. Almost nearly 100% chance of over an inch of snow from the Twin Cities on north through basically the northern 2/3 of Minnesota and the northwestern half of Wisconsin. So I think we all should be very confident that an accumulating snow is going to occur from the Twin Cities on north. And that's, of course, what we've been thinking over the last couple of days. So, a lot going on. And let me just show you one other thing from the SREF short-range ensemble forecast, Bill. This is greater than 4 inches of snow. And watch what happens. This is Tuesday evening. You kind of see where the bullseye for at least heavier snows is going to be located from probably Anoka County on north to the Brainerd Lakes area, and then on east to Duluth. And then if we just go a little bit further in time, you can see that extends then into northwestern Wisconsin tomorrow evening. So long story short, Bill, it looks like an accumulating snow is going to happen, not only here in the Twin Cities, but of course as you head north of the cities. And I am concerned for some icy roads with freezing rain as you head south of the Twin Cities on I-35 and Highway 52 towards Rochester.
Tom, for those of us who like to sort of make a betting game out of it, or just more exact. So for the airport, let's say, what would you say the percent chance of the airport seeing 2 inches or greater is?
Well, Bill, you know me, and you know that I hate saying percent chance. Okay, so I'm not.
Okay. Let's just say. Okay, well, go ahead.
Well, here's just what I'm going to tell you, Bill. Right now, no percent chances here. I just firmly believe that the airport's going to get about 2 to 3 inches of snow. That's what I think. Okay. I'm not going to tell you 50% chance because I just don't think anybody really understands 50% chance. To me, that's a cop-out saying 50% chance. So I do. You can see the 24-hour snow potential map, Bill. I do think that the Twin Cities, a good chunk of the cities, is in line for a 2 to 4 inch snowfall. Heavier as you go north, less as you go south. And then there's that ice area from Mankato over to La Crosse down to the Iowa border. And then, of course, the bullseye of snow from the Brainerd Lakes area east to Duluth and Hayward. That's where I think the significant snow is going to occur. Now, one thing is very important here, Bill, and we mentioned this many times. We talk about the storm coming ashore. Okay, now this is a fast-moving storm, and it just so happens that it came ashore at about noon today, kind of right in that late morning, early afternoon time frame. So it's right about now is when the computer models are getting a real good data sampling of this storm. So the computer models from yesterday, they're hard to trust, but I think as the new model runs come out at 7 o'clock tonight, those are the ones we're going to really want to key in on. And who knows, those models could show that this storm is even stronger than expected, and maybe is tracking just a bit further south than expected. And if that's the case, then the Twin Cities is really going to need to watch out because we could start talking about that 3, 4, maybe even 5 inches of snow. But right now, I think 2 to 3 is a pretty good bet across the metro, maybe even 4 in the northern metro.
Yep. Tom, the only reason I ask about, I guess, what they sort of call probabilistic forecasting is, given what happened in New York with, they only got a foot of snow or whatever versus the 2 feet they were expected, and all the outcry afterwards was, if there was a way of communicating that uncertainty, then maybe people wouldn't have been as surprised. But then again, you still don't know what to prepare for anyway. But that's where I was coming from on that.
Yeah, no, I totally understand, and probably one of the most frustrating aspects of weather forecasting is that it's not a perfect science. I think everybody pretty much realizes that. But with that being said, it isn't perfect, which means we're going to be wrong. How do you tell people the percent chances of you being wrong? It just doesn't jive to me. I mean, I'm telling you what I think is going to happen, and I just think that's better than giving a percent chance because, once again, what does 50% mean, Bill? Does it mean
let me ask you one more different way. Would you be more surprised if there was less than an inch of snow at the airport or more than 4 inches at the airport? Or would you be equal?
More surprised if there was 4 inches plus.
Okay.
Because it's just one of those years, Bill. I'm also a firm believer in weather patterns, and we've been in a pattern where we're just not getting big snowstorms. And I think it's crazy to go out on a limb and predict 4 inches plus at the airport right now, given what we've been through so far this season.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. Yeah, hey, if people want more, of course, they can follow Minnesota Forecaster, right?
Yep.
And Novak Weather.
Yep.
Keep checking in with us, right?
Yep, and I guess it's going to start around noon tomorrow, you said, right?
Oh, yeah, timing, by the way. I think 9, 10 a.m. is when you're going to see it approaching the Twin Cities Metro. We could have an hour or two of heavy snow between about noon and 3, and then it should quickly taper off between 3 and 6 p.m.
Yep.
Drive time is going to be a nightmare. The afternoon commute will be a nightmare, though.
Okay, well, I'm not going to do it then.
All right. All right,
Tom.
See you later, buddy.
We'll see you later. Bye-bye.